Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen,
And I'm John Johnson.
and you're listening to
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, both classic and new comics we want to read, and everything else in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Planes, Trains, and Comic Books. Today, we are checking out, for the spooky season, the comic you all voted on, our patrons. Thank you very much. And that comic, well, there's actually a tie, but I didn't realize there was a tie until after we were like, yeah, this one won. So the one that won is Stray Dogs, which is like a fun Image comic that came out a couple years ago. I say fun just because it's like different and unique. And everybody was like in love with the concept of this. And the concept of it is, what if like Don Bluth or Disney from the 80s made a cute movie about dogs, but it takes place inside of a serial killer's house. So, like fun concept. And another thing they did that was really good for marketing is they had different covers that were all like homages to famous horror movie covers, but then they'd have like a dog on it. So it'd be like Jason's mask with a dog face or whatever, like shit like that.
Oh yeah, no, I actually I saved all of those. I'll put all of those up when we have this posted, so you guys can see it.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
On like our Instagram and stuff.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And so yeah, that was like the reason why this comic kind of blew up when it came out. I mean, it's a cool enough, interesting enough concept in itself, but I think obviously people love dogs, and then like
Do they?
I think most people love dogs, cute dogs at least.
Yeah.
Or if dog people are gonna love this book, even though it does have. I mean, there is definitely some fucked up situations with dogs in it, so just be aware of that. There's some dog violence, we'll say, in this. It's not
That's
as
true. We should. I would just say we should say trigger warning. So
yeah, I guess
just in
whatever.
case.
I mean, I just told you it, like the on the front of it, it says this is Silence of the Lambs meets All Dogs Go to Heaven. So if you can't handle either of those things, and especially them together, don't read this book. but yeah, I mean, it's like I don't know, when people are like trigger warning, it's like, yeah, obviously this it's literally about a serial killer and dogs. Like there's gonna be some fucked up stuff. So but it's not as bad as, say, We Three, which we read. That has some, I think, more messed up elements to it.
Oh yeah, because we three is like animals being tested on in addition to other things. If you haven't heard, that was a really early on one, so the audio may not be great, but that's definitely one that, if you want a really cool.
I think that was after we got okay mics and stuff. I don't remember. I might have not been as good at mixing it, but
Well, it's a really cool comic, so definitely go check that one out if you guys tuning in later and haven't seen all of our early stuff, because it's a really cool comic. We read that early and it's still one I remember and like I really enjoyed.
oh, and it just came back in print too in deluxe hardcover edition. So
Oh
might be one to pick up for the holiday season. Um, but anyway, so back to Stray Dogs. It is by writer Tony Fleeks and artist Trish Forstner, and so they're kind of like they work together a lot. They're doing a new series right now called Feral, which is also on this poll. That one's about cats, so they have a thing and they're sticking to it. Um,
they got a formula.
yeah, and one thing that was cool about Tony Fleeks is I did a review of like the little follow up, like one shot comic that came out after this on our channel, our YouTube channel, and he replied and seemed very nice and was thankful that we talked about it. So I was like, oh, that's cool. So he actually like talked on the YouTube comments to me, which was nice.
Nice.
So yeah, but so this comic, let's get straight into it. We start off with a lady. We don't see her face ever. It's kind of like Peanuts, where all the adults you never see their faces. It mostly focuses on the dogs and like their height of a that's all we see is like people from the legs or waist up usually. But we see this little Pomeranian sitting on the lap of a woman with a red scarf, and they're in a veterinary clinic. And we find out the dog's name is Sophie, as the vet calls them in. And Sophie's kind of freaked out because it's the vet and there's shots and all this stuff. Um, but like one thing that's they bring up is the lady's like, "Oh, is it going to hurt her?" And the vet's like, "Oh, don't worry, she won't remember a thing." And then we cut to a house that's full of dogs, and a van drives up to it, and we see this man come out of it, and he's got combat boots and stuff, which is interesting. And as he gets into the house, he drops down this dog Sophie that we just saw with this woman, and he's telling these other dogs, "Hey, here's your new friend. I got you guys, this new dog. Um, be nice to her." And so, um,
And it's a lot of dogs. Like, I mean, 10
it's a
plus
lot.
dogs in the room. We get introduced to like a handful of them, but like there's quite a few dogs.
There's 8 dogs in this first panel, but there's more throughout the house. So yeah, there's a lot of dogs. Um, so Sophie, of course, is like overwhelmed immediately, and she kind of makes friends as she kind of freaks out. One of the dogs steps forward, who is named Rusty. Do you know what kind of dog Rusty is? So Sophie's a
I
Pomeranian, but I don't. What dog is Rusty?
she well, see, so Sophie kind of looks more like a Papillon to me, but
Oh, I'm sorry.
that's
Whatever. You know what I'm saying.
I was gonna say this is where you and I are gonna differ real hard. On this is that my wife is a dog groomer, so I know way more dog breeds than I would say, like maybe the average person does,
Well, feel
and so
free
like
to correct me because I don't care. So
I will. No,
yeah.
well, it's different because they're cartoony as well. But like so, like I think Rusty is like maybe like supposed to be a German Shepherd mix. That's kind of the
Okay,
vibe that
I'm
I'm
gonna
getting
say he's
from
a
him.
Charlie from All Dogs Go to Heaven, or she's a
Yes,
Charlie.
I definitely like he definitely resembles Charlie for sure.
Is it a he or she? I can't remember.
Rusty is a he, I believe.
Okay, either way, whatever. So yeah, Rusty is like, "Don't worry, little guy. Like, I'll keep him in check. We're all nice. Don't worry, you're safe here." So he explains to her, the situation, like, "Hey, we all live here. Our master's awesome. He's super nice." And then he asks her like, "Oh, do you remember everybody anything?" And she's like, "Oh, I don't remember anything before I got here." So it's like a running theme in this book that dogs have like zero memory skills unless it's convenient for the story, we'll say. So, at points things will trigger the dog's memory and they'll remember little things that happened in the past to each of them or whatever. So, um, that basically like she can't remember anything, so she's getting a tour of the house. They're like, "Check this out. Our master's got like this room of stuffed animals." And there's like, taxidermied animals on the wall. We see deer, we see pheasants, we see cow horns and stuff, so or bull horns. So they're just giving her the tour of the whole property, and showing her the other dogs that are here. There's a big dog named Imogen. Who's what kind of dog is Imogen, John?
Imogen looked like one of those Bernese mountain dogs.
Okay. Is that the ones that are like from Tibet or whatever, or like
Well,
well, I
there's
guess
like
Burma. You said Burmese, right? So
yeah,
okay.
though I was like there's Tibetan Mastiffs, but yeah, the coloring that they did on Imogen would lead me to believe, like I said, like Bernese.
Okay. In your expertise opinion, it's a Burmese dog.
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, so like, we get to meet like all these different dogs and their kind of personalities. So, there's a pug kind of dog. There's like a Chinese hairless dog or whatever, right?
Yeah.
There's like
Well, the key players, I'll give you a rundown. So there's again, Rusty is like a German Shepherd. Sophie is like a Pom Papillon, some kind of terrier mix. Victor is a Dalmatian. He'll be kind of in the story now. Gucci is a poodle that has a little bit. Then there's Henry, who's a bull terrier. Uh, Aldo is like a mixed terrier. He kind of looks like a Jack Russell scruffy mix thing. There's Roxanne, who is a husky-ish dog. There is, and then the kind of the other like big standout is Earl, who is an old bloodhound. He is the old man. He has supposedly been there the longest.
Yeah. So, we meet all of them and get a little bit of their personalities. Most of them are like fun loving. Obviously, Earl being the old one is kind of like,
It's
I don't
crotchety.
know. Yeah, he's crotchety or whatever. So, but the main thing about this tour that matters is there's a room that they're not supposed to go into, and then the and then the master comes home. Oh, she pees herself, right? She pees on the carpet too, and
Yeah,
then it
she
was
gets
like,
overwhelmed with the
yeah, she gets
tour, and she's
overwhelmed
like,
with it, and so she pees on the carpet, and she's freaking out about that. So she like goes to hide, and then the master comes home, and he's like, "Oh, hey, there you are! Like, you found a hiding spot. Like, here's some food, and like, oh, you look cold. You're shivering. Here's something to warm you up." And he puts a red scarf on her, and automatically she remembers, oh my god, that's like my lady's scarf, and I remember seeing this man's boot in the house as my original master, the woman that she used to be with, came in, and then she gets strangled with this scarf by the man. So like Sophie saw her master's death, or her lady's death, and at the hands of this guy, and then he took her and brought her to his house. Now, I'm assuming you got this, John, because you've seen Dexter and shit, but obviously these dogs, each one of them is the trophy of a murder that he committed, right? Like that's what these dogs are.
"Oh yeah, for sure." And like like you said, they pointed out like dogs have like bad short term memory, um, so that's why they don't. But like I could see like all the things that trigger usually are like scents, which with dogs supposedly having like really high scent receptors, like that might be something that could trigger since we don't know much about them. But for story's sake, yeah, I mean like, but yeah, I mean it makes sense. Like I mean I didn't know right away, obviously, but I figured something like that when she, you know, there's a bunch of dogs and they're all different types of dogs.
And they all look mostly purebred. A lot of them are very distinct breeds.
Yeah, for someone who is taking care of 10 plus dogs, they're all very well groomed and fed, and so yeah, it's interesting.
Besides the murder, he seems like a pretty great dog owner. Besides the dog napping and the murdering, those two things.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know why he's murdering, so I mean,
That's true. Maybe they deserved it. But anyway, so Sophie, has this revelation. She runs into all her dog friends and is like, "Oh my god, he killed me and brought me here." And none of the other dogs believe her. They all think she's crazy because they're like, "What? No, our master's awesome. He just fed us. That's fucking awesome." And of course, like the older dogs and the dogs that have been there for longer, they're very much like, no, that's foolishness. Like our master would never do that. And so that's basically um like the main kind of crux of the first issue is she realizes that this guy killed her owner. And then this issue ends like as she wakes up in the morning, Rusty comes over to her and is like, "So we'll have to look at every corner of this place to figure out if like what you thought you saw was true." And then Sophie's like, "Wait, what are we talking about? Who's a killer?" Like because she forgot that she remembered what she remembered the night before. So
yeah.
um so yeah, that's like how the first issue ends. So it's kind of cute or whatever. um yeah, so the rest of the main thing of this comic is these dogs trying to figure out if this master is a bad man or not. I mean, they're confused because he feeds them, which is pretty awesome, and he takes good care of them, which is pretty awesome.
They
But
got a big backyard.
yeah, he's got a big backyard. But as the guy leaves, the master leaves, and they begin to look through the house because apparently Rusty has a better memory and is like, no, we need to look through these rooms because you said yesterday that this was happening. So we're looking through, and there's some interesting stuff in these rooms. There's a lot of women's clothing in one of the rooms. There's also like a
That's the
box.
locked room.
Yeah,
That's the locked room
there's
too.
a locked room. Yeah,
Supposedly locked, but it wasn't.
yeah, it wasn't that day, I guess. And we see like what are those called? Like those dress making, or I guess pattern making mannequin bodies. Like they're the
Mhm.
headless, armless ones that are just for like dresses. And like we see like one with like a belt around its neck, and like then there's a box of rope and handcuffs and photos and multiple driver's licenses and stuff. So this is obviously like the room where he takes the shit that he stole from the women after he murdered them. um, so they're looking through a bunch of stuff in there. They find some more taxidermy animals. Um, but as they're in there, all of a sudden the master comes in and is like, "What are you doing in here, bad dog? You know you're not supposed to be in here." And somehow, like Rusty was the one who got caught, but Sophie got missed. I guess she's so small, and so she's kind of hiding, but she makes a noise in the closet, and he finds her. Um, and then we get a flashback. I don't remember why we get a flashback. She just get like knocked out because like boxes fall on her or something, or is she just freaking out and just has a flashback? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was just a flashback of like, because of all the commotion and things falling.
Okay, yeah. Um, so we get a flashback of the park, like a dog park with her original lady master, and Sophie's kind of freaked out because there's dogs and stuff, and then she's like, "I'm gonna have fun," and then as she has fun, she like almost runs into the legs of a person that looks a lot like the guy who ended up killing her or killing her master. Um, so yeah, there's uh and I think as he's about to like discover her, because like a box falls on her, so she is still like concealed from him as he goes to the closet to find out what made that noise. Rusty makes a noise. He knocks over a lamp, and this pisses the master off pretty hard, and he's like, "Well, come here, dog," and he like takes him to this shed that's in the backyard, and it's like the punishment shed, and all the dogs know it, and they're like, "Oh my god, he's in the shed." Um, and then like at night they go out to use the restroom, and Rusty comes out of the shed, and he's limping, like his paw is broken or something. So apparently the guy like beat the dog. But because Rusty did that, Sophie was able to get a picture that she found on the ground, like a Polaroid, and brings it back to the dogs in the room, in the house, and is like, "Look, this is what I found in the room." And one of the dogs, the one that's like a husky or something,
Oh yeah, Roxanne.
yeah, Roxanne is like, "Oh my god, that's my lady. I remember her." And that's where we leave it. Like, so all the dogs are like, remembering stuff. They're starting to believe that maybe our favorite master guy isn't good. Um, and then in the next issue, we start off with the dogs being outside. They're all playing and stuff. But like underneath the stairs, there's like, what would that be? A crawl space or something, I guess, under there.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess there's like under the stairs of the porch.
And they're dogs, so they can smell something under the porch, and they're like, "That's weird." And as they get there, there's like three basically grave looking spots, right? Like stuff that's been dug up before, and they can smell something there. Uh, and as they go in there, they find another spot that is like already dug up, like he's prepared, like someone's prepared this spot for something to be buried. And the dogs hide in there as like the master hears a noise and is like, "Where did the dogs go? How did this door get open?" So they get like stuck in there, but eventually eventually they dig out and they get all muddy as they do that. And so they come back in, and the master's like, "What the hell? You guys are all muddy? Like that's crazy." And I guess when they were digging, one of the dogs, who's a what's his name?
That's Victor. He's the Dalmatian.
Yeah, Victor the Dalmatian finds uh this the scarf or something, or the clothing of oh no, sorry. The husky finds a piece of clothing, brings it in. She was digging too with Victor, and she's like, I found this when I was digging, and Victor smells it, and all of a sudden he has a flashback. Turns out he was like a firehouse dog, and he had, you know, a firefighter, for a master. I didn't realize. I forgot he only has one arm too. He lost his arm in a fire, so he was saved from a fire and by this firefighter, and she gave him, a nice life. And then this guy attacked him, or attacked her, killed her, and so he remembers. And they so now we get the dogs. This is like where the Disney movie kind of kicks in, right? Like the dogs are like, oh my god, we have to like call 911. And so they start they go on the phone and they call 911 somehow, and they start barking into it, and the 911 person's like, hello, emergency, like 911 emergency, is someone there? And she's like, ruff, 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 ruff. And while they were doing that, the old dog, what's his name? Earl, the old bloodhound, is like, I don't like these people saying my master's bad. So he goes up to the master's room and is like scratching on the door, whining to get his attention. And then as the dogs are barking into the telephone, specifically the dog that's barking the most in the telephone is the
Victor, the
Dalmatian.
Dalmatian.
Yeah, Victor.
Yeah.
So the master finds the phone, hangs it up, and is like, Victor, you're a bad dog. And then he gets taken outside to the shed, specifically behind the shed. And then you just hear a bang, like a gunshot. And the dogs are horrified as they see that looking out the window.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty crazy. Like the other dogs broke a bunch of things and whatnot. This dog, if you're thinking logically as a person, you'd be like, oh, they knocked it off and accidentally dialed 911, right?
Right. What are the chances?
And so for that, it's like, well, sorry, old boy.
It's definitely like Disney logic, like where the humans are a little bit aware that dogs are smarter than they are, or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like no rational human would be like, this dog called 911 on purpose. But I guess it could be like, well, if we got caught, it would be that dog's fault or something. I don't know.
So we got to take him out.
So we start off the next issue with Earl as a puppy getting fed. We can assume that maybe this is the dog from the first murder he ever committed. And he's giving Earl, like little baby Earl, dog treats, and Earl loves him.
Well, see, and this is where this is the only like I thought was going to be a twist in this, was that I thought Earl was like his dog from the beginning, and so that's why
the room that they're in is a girl's room.
Yeah, but I didn't. I didn't assume that.
You don't assume like out of panel off to the side there's a dead woman.
No, I guess I just didn't from that.
I mean, there's unicorn posters on the wall and like fluffy slippers. Everything's pink.
Maybe that's in his secret room and we just didn't see it all.
Also, the first panel starts off with the dog like yipping and roughing, and you just hear huff, 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 huff. So he's breathing hard, like he just got done strangling a woman and is breathing hard from that.
Okay, well, I didn't catch the huffs from that. I just thought it was a twist that it was going to be like this dog has been with him the whole time, and so like he's actually
he has the first murder.
Yeah, but I thought it would mean like he knew these things are going on technically, and like even though most dogs don't remember, he remembers, and like you're not going to get his master or something,
right? Well, I mean, he still has that idea. He doesn't remember his original master or whatever. So
true.
But so as like all the dogs are like, now they're freaked out, except Earl. Earl is still like on his side. He's like, Victor did a bad thing. He was within his rights to do that or whatever. Let's see the body cam footage, right? That's what Earl is about. And
wow.
Let's not rush to any rash. rash conclusions of what happened. Um,
I
but
think Victor had a gun on him, obviously.
yeah, I mean, he was wearing a hoodie. Um,
Wow.
but
Oh my god.
anyway, um, so yeah, now the dogs are just kind of staring at the master at the breakfast table, watching him like in terrified awe. And Earl is sitting right next to his master, like, I'm a good boy. My master's fine. You guys are crazy. He's looking at pictures. That's it. Just looking at regular pictures. Then we see the pictures he's looking at, and it's different women that he's taking pictures of from far away. So these are like women he's scouting to go kill. Then we see him put on gloves and get an obvious kill bag and like, leaves. And then he tells him to be good. And then leaves to go murder someone, we can assume. But then the dogs are now arguing. They're freaking out. They're kind of like obviously Earl's like, my master's not a problem. You guys are terrible. My master gave me treats, and you're all, you know, ungrateful assholes or whatever, basically. And um, so there's like a shouting match going on, and then Rusty comes in and is like, no, I remember too. I remember he killed my lady. And so um, they all have like the dogs are split. Most of them are against Earl, right? Earl is on his own side now.
Yeah.
Um, so the dogs go outside and they can smell Victor. Like,
Yeah, they're like, we'll find out. Well, like, where's Victor then?
yeah, and like they find a spot in the grass that smells a lot like Victor, and they're like, that's weird. It's right here. How come
But wait a
Victor?
minute.
Yeah,
It
why
also
does?
smells like it over here.
Yeah, they're like, let's go in the shed and see what's in there because it smells like Victor in here too. And they go in the shed and they find the pelt of Victor hanging from hooks. It is very like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Uh, and
Yeah.
there's like I guess I've never seen these, but they must be a thing, like taxidermy dog heads, like like it's a template for a taxidermy dog head. So I assume it's made of wood or something and it's carved in the shape of a dog's head. So you can pull the skin over it and then like make a some kind of mount for the head, the skin of the head to go on or something. So
Oh, you don't do taxidermy, Matt?
I do not do taxidermy now. But there's also like a bloody axe, and they made it very much Texas Chainsaw Massacre in here, um, on purpose. I'm assuming, obviously. So, but the dogs instantly are like, "Oh my fucking god!" And so they freak out. And then in the meantime, Earl is like, "I'm gonna put these pups in their place and show them my master is not bad. He's a good guy." Um, so he's gone into the room he's not allowed to go into, the room with all the women's clothes and everything, and he's sniffing around and he finds, I guess he sniffs what he thinks is like a biscuit or something, and he goes into like a locker room and he has a flashback of that same moment from the room we saw earlier, um, where he's getting fed biscuits and the guy's like, "Oh, hush now, be quiet." And then, oh, I guess he hadn't killed her yet because then as he's eating his biscuits, the woman comes in and he murders her while Earl's busy eating biscuits. It's
What a
like,
good dog. It's a
yeah,
puppy, though, to be
yeah,
fair.
it is a puppy, very food motivated. So I guess he hasn't killed the woman yet, but maybe the huffing was because he broke in, you know.
Oh, yeah, like broken the window or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the wind he had to get in here somehow. Um, so yeah, and then he takes little puppy Earl home. Oh, you know what? Earl is not his first dog because he takes the puppy home, and there's a bunch of other dogs there. So this is Earl is not his first dog.
No, and none of these note that none of the dogs in this photo or this
Are the same.
flashback are currently in the house right now. So yeah, like they've either all
Yeah,
died or been taken out.
and they show what he found in the locker is the heads of the dogs that he remembers meeting when he was a puppy. So like we said, the dogs are the trophies of his murders, which is why he keeps them. And then when they die, he stuffs and mounts the heads as his like trophies of those murders. And one of them we see is the Dalmatian. So we found Victor as well. And as the dog remembers and finds and is now like, my master's a killer, he hears a shotgun rack behind him, and his master says, "Bad dog," because he came home to find Earl, doing that. So now Earl is turned on his master, and somehow, even though the guy has a shotgun trained on him, he's not quick enough to. He drops the gun as Earl like lunges at him and bites into his neck.
It's quick dog reflexes,
I
obviously.
guess, sure. It's movie logic with guns and dogs and stuff. So, but Earl runs out of the room after he bites him once, and the man is still alive, shooting through the walls, pissed off, and he runs down the stairs. He tells everybody, or Earl runs down the stairs, tells everybody to run, as the man reloads his shotgun, and it looks like he's going to shoot some of the other dogs, but then we didn't mention it, but Imogen hasn't really done anything. He's kind of like Droopy, or I guess she's kind of like Droopy, where Imogen is like this giant fucking, Burmese dog, and
They kind of make it seem like maybe she's old and like getting, I don't know, like, because she doesn't really move around a lot. She's usually laying down. She gets up once in the like Imogen, and then she just goes over to like the water bowl,
yeah.
and then she walks into
But she
Earl
hasn't
in the
been a part of
hallway
any of these
once.
conversations or any of the findings from the other dogs. So
Yeah.
but Earl is in trouble. He's freaking out. So as the guy's about to reload his shotgun, Imogen rushes from behind, pushes him down the stairs. The guy falls. Then Earl runs through the window, like he jumps from a table through a window, gets all cut up, lands on the lawn, all hurt. But all the other dogs get out, and he's like, "Run!" Like, I was wrong, like so. Um, they all run in the streets, and the master bursts through the door and begins shooting at them. Now, we didn't really mention it, but there's a street right in front of their house. It's very much the Pet Cemetery house, where there's just fucking cars going as fast as possible in front of this dude's house. And so all these dogs run out into the street, or they're about to run out into the
Everybody.
street, but they stop. And the husky dog, I don't remember or Roxanne, gets
Yeah.
shot by him in the leg. So he's about to kill her. And then Earl is like, no. Well, there's a couple things that happen. Sophie jumps out of the window and bites him on the leg, but right as she's about to shoot her, and so she kind of saves her. But then Earl is like, I have to do something. And he's like, my fellow dogs, I will kill myself, basically. So he runs out into the street to cause an accident right in front of this guy's house. And he lives long enough for, all the dogs to run up and say, Earl, why'd you do it? And he's like, I remembered like what happened, and then dies, and all the dogs go ooh, they all howl for Earl in the
Very,
street.
very Disney like. Yes.
Yeah. And then like in the lawn, now everybody's getting out of their cars from their car wrecks, and they're getting out and they're seeing just a dude bleeding profusely from his jugular vein in his neck and holding a shotgun, and all these dogs freaking out around them. And the lady gets out of her car and is like, sir, are you okay? And then he just falls down dead. He like moves his hand, and you see the bite that Earl took out of his jugular, and he bleeds to death on the ground. And then cut to nighttime. Police are there now. A canine unit shows up with one of the cops and talks to the dogs, and they're like, "Go look under the back porch. Go look in the shed. Go look upstairs. There's a bunch of fucked up shit." So then we like, oh, it's completed, happy ending. Then we cut to sometime in the future. We see
Did
little
you?
Sophie. Huh?
I'm sorry. Did you notice? I just, as when the cops come up, the one dog is peeing on the body of of the master.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sorry, I just thought it was a fun little panel.
Is that a Boston Terrier or is that a pug?
I think that's a pug.
Okay. pug is pissing on the body of the master. So
That's all. I just thought it was funny.
yeah. And okay, so we cut to the future. Sophie's running in a park one day, having a blast. She's obviously got a new master or something. And she jumps into a pile of leaves and she sees a dog that looks familiar that was hiding in the leaves. And it's Rusty, but they don't remember each other. And they're like, "You seem familiar, but hey, I don't know. I don't remember everything." So they have like no memory of it. Um, but then like as Sophie gets called by her masters, her new masters, and as she's about to leave, she kind of has like a wait a second, do I remember him? Like look on her face, and she pauses, and then they call her again, and she goes with them. And her name's Trudy now instead of Sophie. Like that's where they renamed her. So, and that's the end of Stray Dogs. What did you think of it, John? And what would you give it?
I loved it. I'm a big dog lover. You're right. I'm one of those people. So it definitely tugged at my heartstrings. I even teared up a little bit when Earl sacrificed himself. I figured he was going to die because he jumped through the window, but then, then jumping in front of traffic to make them stop so the others could run away. I wooed with the rest of the dogs. Um, but yeah, it was fun. There was is pretty straightforward. The only, like I said, twist I thought maybe would be in there. I looked, even though I missed the first time that it was a, a girl or a woman's room, um, in the panel a little. Later, a couple pages later, he remembered for real, so it didn't matter. But yeah, like the story was straightforward. The way that they came together, and like they were like didn't believe her at first, and then they were like one by one kind of like put the pieces together and like fell in like oh man, like I remember my master, oh I remember mine, like it was a fun kind of by the numbers you would think as far as like serial killer, who done it, or like how they would figure it out from their perspective. But it's a cute story, and having all the dogs, little personalities, all different kind of walks of life, and the way that they added to their parts of the story, the things that they found, it was a lot of fun. And all of the art is very cartoony, but like you said, very Disney like, especially any of the time the dogs are like crying basically, or remembering
Emoting,
their
yeah.
exactly their previous masters or whatever. Like it was really fun, and it definitely kept me engaged, and it's a quick read. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with it, and it was like I said, fun story. I totally want to read the little follow up, just out of curiosity. And I'm also kind of curious about Feral. Is it? I assume it's not going to be like the same exact thing, but with cats.
Not
I
at all.
assume they'll. Okay. So yeah. So I look forward to digging into that. So I for an introduction thing to this team, and for a fun read, I'm going to give it a solid 7. It was a good fun story.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna give this one a I'm gonna give it a 6.5. I think it's solid. I don't think it's quite a 7, That gets to where it's like, oh, I would recommend this to people and like tell them like it's awesome. So I think it's just a solid good. It's like above average read, but it's not like an A, it's like a B plus or something. I'll be like, yeah, it's a good comic. You can read
Well,
it.
see, and I would consider a 7 a B plus. I'm thinking A is like 8 and up,
Well, I mean, I'm just going by threes because it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? Like, I
and
don't
then a
know.
perfect 10. Okay. I guess you're right.
I am right, John. It's my fucking podcast, right? Anyway, so yeah, I mean, like a 6, like if 5 is the average, then a 6 would be, slightly
It's above
above
average.
average, and then it's 6.5 is like the highest you could go in that range. So yeah,
Touche, touche. How does this compare to Batman Hush,
right,
our baseline comic?
exactly. But yeah, I mean, this is definitely like you could. The nice thing about this is you could. It's one of those ones like as long as someone's cool with like potential animal violence, you could give it to like your mom or some shit, and they'll probably like it if they did read it. They'd probably be like, "Oh, that was like an interesting idea for a comic." And it was quick read, and there was no investment, real like no time investment, or I didn't have to know like 10 years of DC continuity to read it or anything. So you know, it is nice for that, I will say. But yeah, I mean, just overall, it was fine. It was good. 6.5. Um, I like it. I like it, but it's not like my favorite thing ever. Um, but yeah, I will say like I do love the horror movie posters that they did for it, like for the horror movie covers, like the one for the Friday the 13th where it's got like the guy the serial killer master's outline, like he's Jason's body, and then there's like the camp kind of behind him, but it's his house, and then it's the dogs, in the woods kind of thing. I love that cover personally, but I'm a big Jason fan, so that makes sense. Um,
Yeah, you're a sucker for Jason.
Big old sucker for Jason. So I give it a 6.5. You give it a 7. What are we reading next time, John?
So we are capping off our spooky month. We started and we're ending with a Dracula comic. We're bookending our spooky month. Now, this is a Patreon exclusive. So if you are interested in checking out our second Dracula, this one is kind of like an introduction to Dracula. Is like kind of like it's called the Impaler, and it is by what's the team again, Matt?
Matt Wagner and Kelly Jones.
Yeah, so Matt's been he hopped on the Kickstarter for this one, and he showed me some art from it. It looks amazing. And again, if y'all listen to first Dracula, I'm a sucker for vampires and Dracula, so I'm very much looking forward to this. This will be our Patreon exclusive. Every month, our patrons get to vote on the second episode of the month that we do for everyone, and they get an exclusive podcast. This month, it is Dracula. So if you want to listen to that, you're going to go to patreon.com, become a patron, patreon.com/planes, trains, and comic books, all one word.
Yep. And with that said, we'd like to thank our patrons Hoku, Otaku Mike, Christian, Matthew, Kyla, Joseph, Kalia, Isaiah, and Kevin. You guys are awesome. Thank you very much for your support. And enjoy our thoughts on the new Batman comic by Matt Wagner and Kelly Jones next week. So
The new Dracula comic. You said Batman.
yeah, my bad. Batman's always on my mind, and probably because this November, the first week of November, is our 5th year anniversary.
That's
For the
right.
podcast when we did our first episode on Batman Hush, recorded on my iPhone. Terrible audio, so there's that. So if you're a fan that's gone back and listened to the original ones, we thank you, and also you are a brave soul, because it's not the easiest thing to listen to, I'm sure. But because of that, we thought it might be fun to do a little recap, like a touchback, and maybe we reevaluate Batman Hush again. So we're gonna do that. The first episode of November, we're gonna reevaluate, re-listen to, and or reread, I guess, and
Re-Batman.
regrade. We're gonna read it again. Yeah, we're gonna read Batman Hush. So um, that's gonna be fun. I have not read it since we read it that time. So
Same. Yeah, I'm excited to. I like. We'll probably have to like at least hear what we thought. Like I'll go back and listen to our thoughts at the end of that one. And
yeah, luckily that's
you
only
know
a half-hour episode. So
that's true. Yes. If you dare want to go listen to that, again, I'm sure just terrible audio quality one. But hey, it's again, 5 years in the making. That's pretty awesome that we've been still doing this, and we have patrons to thank now. So I mean that's awesome. We that's why we keep doing this. Obviously, we do also keep doing it because we love reading comics. But yeah, so again, we appreciate it, and we're excited to dive back into our first comic on the podcast, Batman Hush.
yeah, so
For November.
we'll probably have a different format for that one, because obviously we're going back to re-go over it. I think probably we'll probably reference what we said in the first one in certain parts, and I mean, we'll still go through the story, but more loosely, I think, than than what we did in the first one. But yeah,
Yeah, we could probably just be
it'll be
like
fun.
what parts do we love now? What parts are we like we do not like it? Definitely.
Yeah, I think we should do the story too, because we obviously have new listeners from the first one, and we don't want to like make them listen to the first one again. So we'll still tell you what happens in the story, but you know, with our thoughts expanded on now that we've been reading comics for 5 years. Also, at the time, John, you had not really. I mean, you read comics, but you weren't like a comic book reader, and now you read a comic every 2 weeks. So, and for a while, it was every week we were doing the podcast. So,
That's true. And if you go back and look at some of our times, like there were some months where we went crazy, and Matt was like, "We're not doing that again," where we read like 5+ comics in the month too. So
yeah,
um,
I don't know what the hell we were thinking, but
yeah,
now I don't have
we
the
found our
context.
groove. So
Yeah,
that's what matters.
yeah. So, if you want to go back and check that, if not, I'm sure we'll cover a lot of it in the redo, the Redux, Batman Hush Redux, and it'll be like our Evil Dead 2, it'll where it's the same movie but different. So,
I like it.
but yeah, so once again, if you'd like to join our Patreon, it's patreon.com/planes, trains, and comic books. And with that, we'll see you guys on the next one.
On the next one.
Bye.